In other words, they wouldn't know how, but the critics said that Callas in Traviata appeared to us tired.
In the last act?
Generally.
Generally, yes.
Yes, and especially in the last act. This was a compliment for me because I struggled so hard to find this particular quiet, rather little tired quality that I wanted, and it took a long time to have it. And it's dangerous
Yes.
work also, because it's like on a little thread that can break from one minute to the other, the sound you want. Some detail, something that I wish to say that I will never forget what Serafin told me about Isolde when he insisted upon my having some wonderful costumes made, and I promise you I didn't have the money to make them then. He says, you must have beautiful costumes, and especially in these operas that are static. I said, yes, but why that? Why do you insist? And he says, I'll tell you why. For an hour and 10 minutes, the public has nothing to do but look at you. If you don't really fascinate them with your voice, and no matter how much you fascinate them with your voice and your role, they still have all the time, which means an hour and 10 minutes, to cut you to pieces. Take your costume and cut it to pieces. So if you don't really give it the best, you're in for disaster. So at least the vision of what they get should be harmonious, should be nice, like the music that you give them. When music fails to agree to the ear, in other words, to soothe the ear and the heart and the senses, then it has missed its point. That's why I don't agree with modern music. Because whatever bothers the nervous system, especially music that was and is, I'm sure, created for soothing purposes, you've missed your point. Music should be essentially simple, and upon simplicity and beauty of line, it can become great. I think that it's very difficult to top a Verdi, a
Yes.
Bellini, a Rossini, a Donizetti, though intellectuals can say, oh, but they're so old-fashioned. There's nothing old-fashioned other than performers.
You've said before now that you thought of opera as being in some way a dead form. Were you really thinking of the whole operatic art, so to speak, or the operas written 100 years and more ago, the sort of operas that you've mostly sung?
I'm afraid it's true that I think it's dead in this sense that you can't very well imagine today of today singing I love you and singing I hate you or whatever feeling. It can be spoken, it can be screamed, but it's out of style to sing it, frankly.
Well, that's convention, of course.
You
isn't it?
sing of happiness, but you just sing no words, probably. And that's what I mean also because it was quite old-fashioned, I feel. And we haven't done much to modernize it also. Our attitude is quite old-fashioned, though we cannot modernize opera too much because as it is, we must accept it. It is old-fashioned. We must give it a bit of fresh air, cut certain lengthy music, repetitions, try to bring our movements down to the least possible, the most credible to the audience, to create an atmosphere that we can really take them over, make it as credible as we can. Well, I think I said before, and I repeat again, that the first duty of a singer, of a musician, is to create what, or rather to try to feel what the composer wanted. I have two minds. One, the mind that creates, that has to do what she's supposed to, or what it's supposed to, and then I try to detach myself to become the audience, or somebody that looks upon this other person creating.
The performer's mind and a
And it
critical
happens
mind, you
all
might say.
along, it goes along hand in hand. The person, the creator, shall we say, or rather the performer, because we are not creators, we are performers. We try to be faithful, and where we think that the composer may have failed, well, then we can give it a bit of fresh air, a bit of life, which is what I mean by opera being dead. So we give it a breath of life, even if the composer maybe didn't feel it then, because as life goes on, time has changed. Life has become more modern. 100 years ago, things were, even jokes were more easy. Today, people are more serious. You can't fool them that much.
You talked about cutting out or doing without long
Yes.
stretches that were
Oh,
that we
yes.
thought were boring. Do you believe in that?
I believe absolutely in that. I believe in repetition of a melody is usually never good. The sooner you come to the point, in other words, the better it
Yes.
is, if you have any point to come to. And you must always, in other words, you begin, even a phrase, when you speak, once you start, there will be, of course, a legato. Even in speaking, then the phrase will end, you will breathe. This is a continuous movement of breathing also, and of singing. What do? We sing, we speak on music form. This is opera. The first time is the only time, never risk a second time. So mainly music also must be an instrument of theater.
In, for instance, Sonnambula at the end, surely you did Ananjunje twice, didn't you?
That
But
is
it's not
different.
quite
That's a
cabaletta, is it?
showpiece.
It's not
That is
a
quite
cabaletta.
different. And then there exactly is what I say. It's a complete expression of happiness,
Yes.
of joy.
Yes.
There, vocalizing is justified.
Yes.
Because the whole piece is a little naive, shall
Yes.
we say. Not all music is really delicious of every composer. There are certain points, certain parts of the opera, even in Verdi, who was much later than Donizetti and Rossini, that today are tiresome. You always have to be the performer in function of the composer that the public will listen to. And you must make it a success.
Yes.
So this changes because 100 years ago the public was different. They used to dress different. They used to think differently. Now the public dresses differently, thinks differently, and we must act accordingly, though keeping always the atmosphere and the poetry, the mysticism, what makes theater work. This is what we learn from old people, what I learned from old Serafin, to always prepare a phrase, to always dig deeper into what the composer wanted and how he felt and how he used to struggle on one phrase to show the horror or the love or the poetry, all this atmosphere.
But now that's real. That's not
So that
old-fashioned.
is,
That's not dead.
well, feeling is real.
Feeling is real.
Feeling was always
Yes.
real. And I feel that deep feeling, honest feeling, is and always will be.